Hey, it's JK. So stop me if you've heard this one before. I struggled with Sekiro because I kept trying to play it like a Souls game. That was me on my first playthrough of this game. The first half of Sekiro killed me maybe the most of any of the FromSoft games and was an incredibly frustrating experience. Then, I finally figured out the deflection mechanic and I grew to adore the combat, loving every moment of the rest of my playthrough. But, coming back to it years later, I'm now wondering, how difficult would it be to beat Sekiro in that way I was originally trying to play it? That is, without deflecting at all. Well, that sounds like my kind of challenge. Just to make this clear, by deflecting, I mean anytime you press L1 to block an attack, so blocking is also off the table. The only time I'll press L1 the whole run is to use combat arts. I'll also not be using the umbrella prosthetic at all because that can also be used to deflect and block. Mikiri counters, dodging and lightning reversals that only involve pressing R1 are all allowed. Also, to spice things up, I'll be doing this without Kuro's charm and with the demon bell active, making enemies have more health and do more damage. I've never actually even played the game normally with both of these on, so this is going to be interesting. With that said, let's find out if we'll die twice or multiple times in a Sekiro. Much like the morning after my stag party, I start off in a well feeling lost and confused. Sad times though, no green character here guys, 0 out of 10 game. We sneak on ahead and then a small child gives us a sword, very sensible of the gods to have entrusted him with it. What's this charm? Probably nothing, I'll just hand it over, don't want unnecessary stuff weighing down my pockets after all. Deflection? Not on my watch. We sort out these early enemies with some charge up pokes. I thought about taking on this guy, but given we have no healing yet, it's probably best to just leave him for now. We call Kuro along and then get thoroughly disarmed in our first real fight. We rest up near the sculptor's house and make our way into Ashina outskirts. Here we grab the shuriken wheel, our first prosthetic tool. Now, let's face our first mini-boss, Naomori Kawarada. Luckily, we can stealth deathblow him to take off his first health bar. My main strategy for this guy was to keep running around to avoid his attacks, then come back in with a charged thrust attack in his open window. Sometimes he does manage to deflect it and I needed to run away ASAP to avoid getting punished. Even though I didn't always manage, I got enough hits in to finally trigger the second death blow. With that, this mini-boss is Naomori. So, onto the chained ogre. First, I killed off all the soldiers nearby. Then, I ran away to de-aggro him and came back to deliver the stealth death blow. The strategy here was similar to the previous mini-boss, but it's kind of easier because the ogre can't deflect. It did take longer though because we do less damage, and he did actually catch me with a grab at one point. Thankfully, this game isn't just called Shadows Die. After 5 or 6 minutes of running, thrusting, and thrusting some more, it's all ogre for this angry dude. We then imitate someone's almost dead son and get this bell charm for later. Which way to go next though? Let's try over this way. Ah, spooky ghost! Whew, we made it out to the next checkpoint. I then read this note saying not to ring this bell, and then instantly ring it. We now have the bell demon, who apparently is a friendly little guy who will help us out along our journey. At least that's what Reddit said, and they've never lied about anything, right? Anyway, back in Ashina, I went to take out all these guys around General Tenzen Yamauchi. Despite taking them all out and getting the stealth death blow on him and landing a whole load of thrust attacks, he did unfortunately catch me with a couple of swings and end my life. Ouch. Anyway, after taking them all out all over again, I gave it another try. This time, I landed 2 charged thrusts after the stealth death blow. After this, I played more cautious, circling him furiously over and over, coming back in with a charged thrust after each of his attacks. I stayed moving constantly and only took a couple of hits this time. Even so, I was nervous for this entire fight. You could cut the Tenzen with a knife. I then farmed a bit more Sen and purchased the firecrackers. I then get the shuriken and firecrackers fitted and unlock the Mikiri counter. As I'm here, I use the bell charm and enter Hirata Estate. There's a couple of useful things here, such as the flame barrel. But more importantly, Isshin of Misen is here, aka Mikiri counter practice. With some good aggression and him missing a lot of his attacks, he gives us our 4th prayer bead. This allows us to get a prayer necklace which gives us more health, which will always be a good thing to have on a run like this. But I don't fancy more Hirata Estate just yet, so let's go this route. This reptile tried his luck with me, but unfortunately when he rolled the dice, he came up snake eyes. Before the next boss, I grabbed some divine confetti and Akko sugar. This leads us to our first real boss, Gyobu Oniwa. Of course, we interrupt his initial shout. While he's not as deflect heavy a boss as others, he does have very long reach with his spear, and not getting far enough out the way leads to death. One skill I unlocked which I felt would be really useful here was the grappling hook attack, as there's many opportunities to close the distance with the grappling hook in this fight. I also equipped the flame vent for that burn damage over time effect. For the first part, I used the sugar and divine confetti to smash down a bunch of his health right at the start. I figured out how to dodge some of his close range attacks and get some hits in with some charged thrusts. Annoyingly, he did run away a lot, wasting my buff time. I did take a death at one point, but thanks to some good positioning, I got his first death blow. Then, right at the start of the second phase, I used the flame barrel twice to get the burn status effect on him. He didn't take too kindly to this though. Annoyingly, I lost my stagger window due to dodging away too fast, and he did then take me out again, leaving me with just one life remaining. I quickly flame vented him again twice for another burn, but I took some hits in return, leaving us both on pretty low health. I really didn't want to choke after all this, so I played very cautiously, only punishing the grappling hook moves. I also learned that the grappling hook attack actually staggers him when he does the spinning spear attack, which was what finally led to his defeat, ending this Oni war of attrition. We can now get our first attack increase. Speak to Definitely Not Isshin and grab a prayer bead from above. After helping Isshin by eradicating these guys, he gives us the Ashina text to help teach us all the skills he knows. Now onto one of the worst bosses in the game, the Blazing Bull. Actually, you know what, this wasn't too terrible. I mean, it's still a rubbish boss, don't get me wrong, but the strategy of just run after him, do a single thrust and repeat still works okay. It took quite a while, but at least the deaths were fairly minimal to take down this enraged bully. I then save this nice merchant guy for the gourd seed he'll sell us later, and take out this generic general guy for another prayer bead. I now quickly make my way up to the next idol and grab another gourd seed. This idol has this guy who is super easy to farm, allowing us to get the money to purchase yet another gourd seed. I also grabbed one more prayer bead up ahead, which is the fourth one we need to get our next necklace. I tried this cha-ching idiot, but not being able to deflect really makes this fight a lot tougher. But maybe we need an alternate approach. First, I go get Sabamaru from this chest below. Now, we use Gaichin's sugar, and we can actually sneak all the way behind him and stealth death blow him. As he gets up, we use Sabamaru to poison him. He's pretty weak to poison, so we just let that run its course. Then, with another opening, we poison him up again. After doing it a third time, he's basically dead, so one more hit takes him out. I think he lost a liter of blood here. There's another Akko sugar here, so I quickly grabbed it. I guess let's try Genichiro now. Well, thrust attacks are once again the best way. Baiting certain attacks and then punishing with one is viable, but if he deflects it, it often feels like I just can't get out the way fast enough. This would be possible, but I think it'd make sense to upgrade Sekiro more first. Back to Hirata Estate we go. I took out all of Jozu's men and then stealth deathblowed him. He doesn't tend to deflect too much, so thrust attacks after each of his moves work great. I used Flame Vent at one point, and I even let this guy help out for the last bit. This guy is a bit of an animal, he belongs in a Jozu in my opinion. Up ahead, we grab another prayer bead. We only need one more now for another necklace, and luckily there is one that's quite easy to get from this 7 Spears Ashina guy. First, we sneak up for the stealth death blow, and then hang down here. Now just mash R1 for about 7 minutes and another prayer bead. Okay, that was pretty cheesy, but screw this guy. I felt this was in the spirit of the run anyway. Lady Butterfly is another boss that might be a better shout before Genichiro, so let's give her a crack. This is often a tough fight for new players even with deflecting. I remember her kicking the hell out of me on my first playthrough. But Lady Butterfly does have one significant weakness I've read about. Slashing after you dodge. No, really. I had heard about this tactic before, but never tried it, and yeah, it's literally crazy how easy this makes the fight. If you just keep dodging to her right in phase 1, doing a slash after the dodge, and then repeat, you actually hit her every time, chipping her health down to kill her pretty quick. For the second phase, she summons the illusion, so I just ran away until they disappeared, and kept running to avoid the projectiles. After this, I can resume our strat, although she does have a couple moves to break out of it, like this one where she darts back and fires the Phantom Kunai. But Other than that, it still works pretty nicely. I did have to run away for a couple more illusion attacks and did get hit a few times, but after a few more minutes, our sword goes through her like a knife through butterfly. With this, we can upgrade our attack power and get flowing water to reduce posture damage from enemies with swords. I then farmed a bit more, firstly to get the money to buy another gourd seed, and also acquire the skills for better healing and more posture damage on my Mikiri counter. Lastly, I equipped the Ichimonji skill. Time to try Genichiro again. By far, the toughest attack in this fight was when he runs at you and slashes twice. No matter how I tried to dodge or jump away, this attack always seemed to hit me. So, after quite a few deaths, I got a strategy down. Basically, create distance and then let Geni run at you, who usually do one of two things. First one he can do is fire an arrow, which you can just sidestep and then slash to always hit him as he rolls. The second thing is the double slash I mentioned, but you can actually just interrupt it by slashing him as he gets close. It may not always do damage, but it will at least stop that pesky attack. It can be tough to tell exactly which one he's going to do, but I managed to get through phase 1 without having to use any healing with this method. For phase 2, the strategy largely remains the same, although it took longer this time. I did get fooled by the fact he does different perilous attacks after his jump now, and it's not always easy to tell in the moment. Plus, there's a new arrow attack which hurts a lot. But, with enough persistence in punishing his couple of other windows, we bring him to phase 3. This one was actually pretty easy in comparison. He does a lot of Mikiri counterable attacks which are an easy punish. Plus, the lightning reversals take off big chunks of health. I should note again, although I did mention it earlier, that I'm not pressing L1 during these reversals, I'm literally just jumping and pressing R1, so by my rules again this doesn't count as a deflect. After 3 or 4 of these, his health is torched and Genichiro is defeated. Sorry dude, but hey, tomorrow's another day. After Genichiro was done being edgy, I worked my way through the onslaught of dialogue. Onslaught is definitely the best word for this, but hey, at least I got another resurrection. With that finally sorted, let's head down into the abandoned dungeon. Or rather, let's just rush through to get to Senpu Temple. Here's a question. Why do these monks have money on them? What are they spending that on? It's clearly not soap and deodorant. Armored Warrior, of course, blocks our way up ahead here, and yeah, he does a lot of damage. One prosthetic tool I had forgotten to grab was the loaded axe, and that actually will be pretty useful here. You see, this guy can only be beaten by doing enough posture damage to him and then delivering a death blow to push him off the edge. The axe really helps to build this up, so getting it was a good shout. Luckily, the rest of his attacks aren't too difficult to dodge. For the most part. Ouch. I ran out of spirit emblems, so had to do the last bit with just slashes, but luckily I managed to get them and position him so that the death blow sent him tumbling off. I bet that landing Rob hurt. Up ahead, we ring the bell and prepare for the folding screen monkeys. In my opinion, one of the best gimmick bosses FromSoft have ever done. However, this boss doesn't require any deflecting. I just kill all these simians in the usual fashion to basically get ourselves a free attack boost. On top of the attack boost though, this boss is also the Mung key to getting the Mortal Blade. This weapon will be of great value to us. I also unlocked the mid-air combat art skill, which will be very useful. With that sorted, let's head to Sunken Valley. We grab another gourd seed down here and make it to this horrible ass area. With Snake Eyes, I did the usual tactic of losing the aggro and then getting a stealth death blow. After this, I used a nice cheesy Sabamaru strat to drain their health. This still ended up being close because holy hell do these guys do a lot of damage. Luckily, I managed to get the win. I would have been pretty irate if they'd killed me here. I then grabbed another prayer bead from here and another from this merchant by the abandoned dungeon, which gets us our 4th prayer necklace. I then grabbed double Ichimonji because I thought it would be useful, even though I barely used it at all. This long giraffe centipede was genuinely one of the most annoying mini-bosses of the run. My strategy was to use Fistful of Ash to blind him, then blast him with Mortal Blade. The problem is, the room is so small that one mistake can mean death. Also, why did they make up on the D-pad the button for using an item? I ended up actually changing the controls so it was triangle instead. Next time, I managed to nail the timing. Throw the ash, Mortal Blade twice, dodge instantly, and then repeat. I still did get caught by some of his attacks, but I had just enough Ash left to deal enough harm to end his life. Speaking of arms though, let me issue a call to arms right now. We're aiming for 200,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we can only do that with your help. Many people watching aren't subscribed at the moment, so if you are enjoying the video and want to see more runs like this one, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you, I really appreciate you all for watching. I then grab another prayer bead nearby. It seems trying to cross this bridge was a missed snake though. I run past all these monkeys, but I don't intend to fight the big guy just yet. So instead, I possess this monkey and take the route to Mibu village. Sadly, we have to do this awful fight with Snake Eyes in the poison. But I mean, obviously, I'm just going to stealth death blow them and then let them die by walking in the poison. This dude deserves all the cheese. Conveniently, there's another prayer bead nearby, and once we reach the next area, I get us our 5th prayer necklace. I tussle with this drunken guy, who was a glutton of fun, and then luckily land my attack on this noble. Would have been really embarrassing if I'd missed. I then spoke to this guy, who was a bit of a basket case, and then ran past Orin to the next boss. Corrupted Monk is up now. This was actually easier than many of the previous bosses, but I was well prepared. I snuck up behind and buffed with Divine Confetti and Akko Sugar before laying in a whole bunch of mortal draws. I then used the 2 snap seeds I had on me to stun her and land some more hits. After this, I just stayed at distance, baited their attacks, and then ran in after to land a couple mortal draws before running off again. This was pretty smooth, and eventually we corrupture their spleen with my sword. We now grab the first collectible we need, the Shelter Stone. So I guess we gotta take on Ian the Guard Ape. This was a fight I had been pretty worried about, honestly. This is one of the strongest Ians in any of the games. He does huge damage, is very aggressive, and has lots of wide-reaching attacks. For the first phase, I stuck with just thrust attacks because I wanted to save my spirit emblems for phase 2. I mainly punished after his poop attack, after this jump at the end of the combo, and after the jumping grab he does in the latter parts of the fight. Everything else, I just ran away from. I tried to go for one too many hits at the end, and he did actually kill me, but other than that, this wasn't too bad. After the best fake out in FromSoft games takes place, one which I like to refer to as Ape Real Falls, we get to fight his headless form. So obviously we can't do much against his normal sword slashes here, but his 2 jump attacks are perfect punish windows for us. I use Mortal Draw now, which takes off good chunks of his health. I played pretty cautiously and just waited for those 2 attacks. After 6 minutes, my patience finally pays off, and Ian is at last defeated. He should have quit while he was ahead. I grab the Lotus of the Palace now and return to Ashina Castle, which is overrun by shinobi. I quickly killed the ogre down below, definitely didn't cheese this lone shadow guy, unlocked the ability to hold more spirit emblems, and quickly grabbed the spear prosthetic I forgot to grab earlier. Of course, we do still have to take out Lone Shadow Vilehand, but fear not, I have a strategy. Obviously, we puppeteer his buddy to attack him and help make the first phase quicker. But for the rest of the fight, I take advantage of his one weakness, me running around him in a circle. No, really. Running around him, baiting an attack, and then punishing with a poke or dodge slash works surprisingly well against these mega annoying enemies. This was a solid 5 minutes of running, and of course I did still get hit a few times due to how small the room is, but soon enough, we hand this vile villain a defeat. This gives us our 6th prayer necklace. Well, I suppose it's time to take on Dear Owled Dad. I was kind of worried about this one, but honestly, this was nowhere near as tough as I'd imagined. My main worry was I remember how difficult avoiding his big running slash was during my initial playthrough against him, but I did seem to be able to just run away from it this time without much issue. The main attack I wanted was the 2 shuriken followed by the somersault, and I'll be honest, I feel like I kinda got lucky here because he did this a lot. It's easy to run in and punish with a couple of mortal blades and then run back out. It's also possible to do it after the single shuriken and slash attack. The second phase, he adds the smoke attack as well, but other than that, it's more of the same strategy. Keep on running, punish those couple of attacks. After not too long, we run him through and disembowel our own father. Next, we tell Kuro we like the cut of his jib, have a deep and meaningful with Emma, and then break her trust by eavesdropping on her to get the Father's Bell charm. We head back to Hirata Estate, where we defeat this lone shadow in a battle of pure skill, and take out Juzu for the second time. I don't intend to do Owl Father just yet, I just wanted the prayer beads for now. I then quickly returned to Senpu Temple to grab this prayer bead from the bottom of this pond, and then killed this Gentipede Seraph boss. Crazy how much easier he is when he's not in a tiny room. This gets us another prayer bead and our 7th prayer necklace. Lastly, I grabbed one more from beneath Mibu Village Lake, and it was at last time to head to Fountainhead Palace. Not sure what this guy has between his legs there, but it looks inappropriate. Of course, blocking our way was the true corrupted monk, and this was definitely the hardest fight up to this point. She has huge range, and if she deflects one of our attacks, I often can't get away in time to avoid being hit by her counter-strike. There were some tough losses here, including a death 12 minutes into the fight. My brain nearly corrupted after that. So, what's the strategy, JK, I hear you ask? Well, I actually didn't really use the Mortal Blade at all for the first phase. The key for this is positioning. A lot of her attacks when you're at mid-range, you can just walk backwards from and come back in for a charged thrust after because she has quite big openings, specifically after her jump attacks and the big upper slash that she runs towards you with. The Mikiri counterable thrust she does is also a good window. It was still a slow battle and I did get hit a couple times, but eventually phase 1 goes down. For phase 2, thankfully, you can death blow her right away from up in this tree. Is this intended or is it an exploit? Honestly, I'm not sure, but right now I'm grateful for it. Let me know in the comments below what you think. For phase 3, she adds a few new attacks in, including a charging perilous attack. I had intended to use the Mortal Blade here, but I just felt it left me too open and it caused me to die right at the start when I couldn't get away from her. So, I decided to just stick with the thrust attacks. Her spinny jump attack can still be punished as we did with the jump attacks from the previous phases, although it did catch me in a scary moment early on. Her helicopter spin to win attack is also a nice opening once she finishes it, and same with the terror attack. I mainly just stayed at distance, baited these attacks and poked her after. Finally, after a nearly 12-minute fight, she goes down and we leave this boss where they belong, among the dead. We upgrade our attack power again and make it to Fountainhead Palace. I mainly just blitzed it through past all the Soul Sucker nobles, but did stop to take out this beast for another prayer bead. Luckily I wasn't enfeebled while fighting him. Whoa, that fish really seized the day. His mantra must be Carpe Diem. This guy then told me about a zoo where they only had one chihuahua. It was a Shih Tzu. Shout out to my wife Babsa Jr. for that one. I then swam down into the water to grab yet another prayer bead, bringing our total up to 4 and giving us our 8th prayer necklace. I actually got past this giant fish without him seeing me whatsoever, which I don't know if I've ever managed before. The last gourd seed of the game is here, which is a great get for this point. So next up is the Divine Dragon, and honestly it's just the normal Divine Dragon fight. There's really no difference as you don't need to deflect in here anyway. I mean, sure, the damage is jacked up pretty high thanks to the lack of Kuro's charm and the Demon Bell, but otherwise we do the usual killing of the old dragons at the start, hitting the dragon with lightning slashes and then running away from his million slashes with his giant sword. We posture break it and we get its tears, which are, just like tomatoes, ripe on divine. We now return to Ashina Castle, which is under siege. I grab the loaded umbrella, which we can get for free, not because I intend to use it, but just because it opens up an upgrade that we need, the Malcontent. But of course, to get all the necessary materials, we also have to do the second Headless Ape fight, which honestly was fine. I mean, the first phase is exactly the same as the second phase of the first ape fight, just bait those jumping attacks and punish. For the second phase, I was able to land a couple of mortal draws at the start to do some good damage, and then focused on taking out the second ape. I did definitely get ganked at some points here, and they did manage to kill me, but luckily I managed to get away and heal. Despite a few more close calls, I kept the pressure on and landed more mortal draws on the second ape repeatedly until he finally died. Then it's just back to the same baiting strategy once again with the headless one, until finally we send this Mish ape and creature to the afterlife for good. We actually do need to kill this Shichiman warrior also, but he doesn't normally require any deflecting, you just gotta get that divine confetti on and run after him mashing R1. The terror mechanic as always is kind of annoying and feels kinda shit cheesy, but it doesn't stop us from taking him out and getting the Malcontent's ring. Okay, we now have the Malcontent whistle. I also grabbed one more prayer bead from Mibu village and went back to beat O-Rin, who I mainly just ran away from, and punished her 2-slash attacks with some mortal draws. This brings us again up to 4 beads, and thus we get our 8th prayer necklace. Okay, so 3 bosses remaining. I decided to do Owl Father first. Yep, this is going to be a tough one, alright. This was, surprisingly, actually the toughest fight in the entire run. When some of his attacks can flat out one-shot you from full health if you dodge wrong, you know you're in for a bad time. However, this fight was an interesting one because it differed a lot from many of the boss encounters on this run so far. For a lot of them, as you've probably seen, I've been running away and just baiting an attack I can punish and then repeat. Here, being aggressive actually works a lot better. For phase 1, after slapping on Divine Confetti and Akko Sugar, I run in and hit Owl with a bunch of R1s while he's standing there. After this, I stay on him, landing 3 hits until I hear the deflect sound, at which point he'll do one of 3 things. He'll either use you to jump backwards, do a single slash, or shoulder barge you forward to set up the firecracker slash. For the latter 2, you can dodge through to get behind him to land a hit, and then repeat the process. The timing has to be very precise to actually dodge his slashes, as otherwise you end up taking a harsh punish. Another good one is if he runs towards you and fires a single shuriken followed by a slash. You can dodge through the slash to get behind him for another solid punish. After enough of this, he goes to phase 2. I saved my spirit emblems so I can just use mortal draw here, and I land 2 at the start to take off a nice chunk of his health. Unfortunately, many windows where you think he's open, he now flies off in his owl form to get away, so I did miss some mortal draws as a result. Other than incorporating mortal draw into some of the punish windows, the strategy for phase 1 works fairly well here also. This got very dicey towards the end, and I was really nervous that I was going to choke after all of this, as I was about 3 hours of attempts in at this point. I stopped using mortal draw just because I preferred the speedier punish. Finally, after the most attempts of any boss in this run, I dodged one more flaming owl and Mikiri countered his attack to finish him off. This fight pushed me farther than I would have ever imagined. As much as I really don't want to, I suppose we have to do the Demon of Hatred now. I remember on my first playthrough this being a horrendously painful fight, and I've actually only ever killed this boss properly one time before. Some of his hitboxes are kinda sus, and generally it's a lot of running around as opposed to the smooth swordplay Sekiro's combat is known for. That being said, it actually doesn't require deflecting, so this fight is pretty much the same as normal, except he does a lot more damage and has more health. So the best strat for this guy is hug his left leg. Hit a few times, sprint round him counterclockwise to avoid his attack, and repeat. If he jumps up in the air, run away and grapple back in to hit him, and of course make sure to jump the perilous attack and run after him ASAP to avoid the follow-up fireballs. This first phase wasn't too bad, and surprisingly I actually got through it hitless. For phase 2, I instantly took a hit by failing to dodge the perilous attack. I did get flustered in all honesty, and took a lot of damage here initially, but at least managed to get into the groove again. The same strategy works here as well, the only thing to be wary of is the new follow-up slam after the perilous attack, but it's easy enough to jump if you see it coming. Phase 2 concludes, and I then ran the hell away and rebuffed. I saved all my spirit emblems and the Malcontent for this phase to try and blitz through it, and blitz through it I did. Okay, I was a bit reckless and sure he did punish me, but the stuns helped me get through his health bar much quicker this time. With a few more slashes, we land the finishing hit, and the Demon becomes a Demoff. I was happy with how well I hate-read his attacks here. One last attack upgrade before the final boss of the run. No, not these guys, they can piss off. First up, we've got to go another round with Genichiro. This fight with him is honestly just annoying. I kinda wish you didn't have to go through this every time you want to fight Isshin. At this point in the game, you can kinda just smash through him with enough aggression. Even without deflecting, filling up his posture meter is not too tough. But of course, he's only the first of 2 bosses we have to fight in our Genichiro. Isshin the Sword Saint is the peak of difficulty in Sekiro, a brutal encounter that tests you on everything you've experienced throughout the game. Given the few openings here, there was a lot of running away involved, and quite a few deaths after 15-minute plus attempts. So how to tackle this momentous challenge? Well, first of course, try and get through Genichiro using as few resources as possible. For phase 1 Isshin, the attack we want is the one where he runs to the side and then comes in with 3 strikes. This is easy enough to punish with a charged thrust. The perilous attack and the Ashina cross are also great openings to land the charged thrust as well. I still did take a few hits here when I got kinda greedy with hits, but overall this phase went relatively smoothly. But phase 2 is where things get tough. Initially what I had been doing was baiting his jump attack, running away from it, and then trying to punish the follow-up, which didn't always work out so well. But then I realized there was a simpler way. So first I punished him with a couple of mortal draws at the start of the phase. Then I baited the jump again, but this time dodged under it. This was a much safer strategy and gave me a guaranteed opening each time. It still took a while to get him to do this enough times to drain his health down, as without spirit emblems, mortal draw's power is reduced. Slow and steady wins the race, as they say. There are a couple of other openings such as the Makiri counterable attacks and also the Ichimonji, which I could punish to chip away at his health. Annoyingly, I actually staggered him for the death blow, but didn't realize and dashed away. Luckily, I landed another hit and took him to phase 3. This phase took the longest of any of them. The entire fight was 17 minutes, and this phase alone was 7 minutes. It's weird because the same strategy that worked for the previous phase works here as well, but this attempt came after I'd had about 8 attempts in a row that each lasted 10 to 15 minutes, only for me to choke at the last moment. So to say that I was a little worked up at this point was an understatement. In the last moments, I got spanked by messing up the dodge on his jump attack a couple times, using up the last of my healing. Mercifully, I landed the final mortal draw, and with that, victory ish in hand. With that, we choose the purification ending in honor of the boss fight, with Owl Father being the most challenging of the run. My first Sekiro challenge run is complete. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Feels good to finally get round to this one, and let me know if you'd like to see more Sekiro content. Until next time, I've been JK Leeds, see ya, and have a good one.